Hey, Govcon Giants, your host, Eric Coffie here with the Govcon Giants podcast and the founder of Govcon EDU, where we bring government contract training to all people. We want to make it easier, more accessible, so that we can help curve the amount of small businesses that are leaving the Department of Defense and the civilian government agencies. We want to increase those persons, companies participating in this process. So visit govconedu.com for more information on courses, training, consulting, proposal writing, bidding, estimating, all things government contracting related. In today's episode, I'm interviewing Michael Sanders from IGH. Now, Michael was a former Marine rifleman turned government contractor, and back in 2003, when President Bush announced that there's going to be a 3% goal for veterans, he decided to jump all in. But in today's episode, what we discuss, because Michael's kind of an outlier, is whether or not certifications are necessary, and also one of those common myths about becoming a subcontractor. Yeah, you want to stay tuned for this one. Also, he shares with us two key secrets for success, and finally, he discusses how he went from 400,000 a year to 1.2 million a month, from 5 FTEs to over 150 FTEs, all in today's episode of the GovCon Giants podcast. Stay tuned. If you're not already on our email list, visit govcongiants.com, sign up for our email list on tips, tricks, tools about winning government contracts. Let's get it. All right. Hey, everyone. Eric Coffey here with the GovCon Giants podcast. And today we have Michael Sanders of Interactive Government Holdings. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you, sir. So again, like I mentioned just before we jumped on, I was watching a couple of your other interviews, and I really liked the one that you did with Jenny Clark, where you discussed making the Inc. 5,000 list. In fact, you made it 3 times. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
and I mean we're looking to go after it again, but it's not growth's not necessarily your only priority.
Okay.
You have to. I guess I've learned some lessons over the last couple of years, in terms of scaling growth. So we're still going after the big fish, but I'm also sort of tempering that with knowing that there has to be a whole other side of the business that supports it. So yeah.
No, and I like that, and I think that's a great starting point. And so, did you ever think, right, when you left the Marine Corps, that you'd be in this position?
No. I've always been good at most things that I've tried. Sure. Entrepreneurship is a little bit different because you have to be good at not only a core set of things, but also you have to be proficient in a subset of skills as well. Until you can afford to start staffing up, you're it. So you have to be able to adapt a little bit, and during the course of the day when it was just me before the ink list, I was doing the website in the morning, then I'd look through FBO or SAM.gov as it was,
Right.
Find opportunities, and I'd, email people that I'd met and, see if people wanted a team. And, then I'd have to put a Craigslist ad up because I'd have someone quit at, I had a warehouse contract at NIST for like 18 months. It was a 3-month contract that got extended month by month for 18 months. So you can imagine how fun that was to staff and manage. But at the time, the money was good enough that it helped the churn. So I kept at it. So yeah.
No, that's pretty good. Now, I had the privilege of hearing part of your story because I did my research. But for those of you who don't know you or your story, your background, what was the reason why you decided to start your business in the first place?
I was in DC, and President Bush signed the executive order allotting 3% of government spending to go to vets and service disabled vets. At the time, I was working as a political consultant, and somebody just happened to dip their head in my office and see a picture of me on a Zodiac boat, and we're like, "Oh man, you're a vet." President Bush just signed this executive order, and so I looked it up, looked at what the federal budget was that year in 2003 or 2004, and did the math, 3%, and was like, "Damn, that's a lot of money," not realizing that it would take a couple years to get through SBA and put into have log and be put into policy and all this different
Right.
things. So
Right.
or an executive order, I guess, be put into policy. But that was sort of the catalyst for me saying, okay, I think I could do this.
Nice. And when you set out your path, what did you picture yourself doing or helping the government solve what problem or what need? Did you have a particular business? I know a lot of people say janitorial, landscaping, right?
No, so at the time, initially, our thought was, that initially I had a business partner who was doing political consulting still, and we thought, okay, well, maybe we could sell the same services, which was like websites and stuff like that, and or maybe it was products, but I guess it depends on how you view it. But I very quickly realized that to get something into an agency that was a system or a software, it would take years and millions of dollars, and I've also had also always had great advisors, and very quickly I realized that I needed to pivot over into services, because there's just a lower barrier to entry. You can go after one or two people if you need to, when you start. And so that's why I always kind of like, I feel like the common refrain, for new business owners, there everybody tells them like, "Oh, go learn how to be a good sub," but you don't really learn that much from being a good sub, except for how how your prime is going to treat you.
Right.
And if you have no really experience as a prime, you're not going to know whether they're treating you well or not. And so, for me, initially, I got one subcontract with one FTE, but after that, I started priming stuff with that subcontract.
Okay.
And I primed little things at first that were 1 and 2 people.
Right.
And then I started priming mediums, and then in 2015, which led to the ink list. We started going after larger things.
Okay.
And so and then also, if you look sort of market wide, when you read about awards or large awards, that are hundreds of millions of dollars or 50 million or whatever, it seems like there's less competition up there. We went after $1 million thing in Huntsville, and it was like we were like it was almost 2 years, and they finally made an award, and there was like 32 bidders for $1 million
Right, for $1 million, right?
over 5 years.
Right.
And to some people that's a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but not if you're already
Established.
a growing established. Yeah,
Right.
it's not really. We went after it as a way to try to get into that arena, and then decided like, no, we don't want to. We don't want to play
Right.
in this arena anymore. And so we've tried various services, but the stuff that we do really well is like the veterans outreach, veteran support, veterans transition, veterans employment. We do that all across the United States. And so, however, there are also, most of that work is listed under administrative support. So it's hard to, number one, stay competitive in that arena, because there's really no career path for administrative support people. Like, in 5 years, there's still administrative support. If you gave them bumps every year for 5 years, now you just put yourself 10% higher than your competition starts at, and so it's hard to stay in administrative support and stay competitive the longer you go and the larger that you become, because the infrastructure that you need to support, 100 people is very different than what you need to support for. So yeah, so that's been kind of what I've been learning.
I agree with you that it is. I've always believed that, right? At the top, there's fewer and fewer competitors, right? And
Yep.
it's interesting, but for some reason, a lot of small business have trouble grasping that. How do we help, like, make it make sense?
So, I do a lot of panels. I talk to a lot of new business owners. I'm on a few boards. And the common, like, for years, what I've heard is like, oh, we don't want to grow out a small business, or we don't want to, accidentally become large, or we don't want to compete in that space. And like, I think as a small business, and of course, this isn't true for every opportunity, but I think we're more competitive in the full and open space than we are in the small business space, especially if you have past performance, because you're cheaper, you're more agile.
Right,
You
right.
can you can make things happen. If there's been multiple times we've had a partner that's been like, hey, can you throw up 541330 on your website and put some language around it? I have a customer that I want to put you in front of.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, no problem. I'm the CEO. I know how to do it. I mean,
Right.
we have a girl that, just graduated, that does the website, but if I needed to, I know how to go.
You're like, I know what to do.
Yeah.
I said, I remember those days.
And that's right. I mean, and most likely these days, I'd probably just send her the language that I wanted to have her do it. But if I needed to do it right then, I could, and I think that's kind of like, small businesses need to realize that they have a lot of advantages over the large businesses, especially in terms of how you make the decision to go after things, the bureaucracy that you don't have to go through to get resources, hopefully, especially if you're an owner operator that's involved in your proposal process. And you're doing the capture ahead of time, and not just shooting at the wall, but like I said, I agree with you. I think more small businesses should go after full and open work that's larger, but larger numbers do scare people, and you can jack it up pretty bad if you underbid, right? And so you want to feel confident in your financial people that they have the experience bidding that kind of stuff, hopefully before hopefully your $50 million bid isn't their first $50 million bid.
Right.
So, because you can, especially if it's competitive, but you could be underwater. But the flip side of that is that as a small business, competing in full and open, it's very unlikely that you'll be underwater with your wrap rates and your overhead when you're bumping up against the big guys, and
right.
I've had larges on my team, and I'll call them and be like, hey, like, you got to sharpen your pencil.
Right. You're like,
and they'll be like, we'll take less people. We want our rates, and so
right.
I've just literally had one of them laugh and be like, yeah, we're expensive, I'm like, yeah, I know. And I'm trying to spread your wrap rate over my wrap rate.
Right. That's not right. Yeah, it's not. That is that happened to me recently, and it's funny that you say that, because we went in because they had it was a large bid. It was an IDIQ over 5 years, but we didn't have the bonding, right? They wanted like a single award, 10 million bonding. And then we went in with these guys and a large, and like, our seed project, I don't know, I think we priced it at 2 million, but by the time they submitted, it was like it was like double.
Yeah.
You're not even doing anything. I said, you're not even doing anything. You're putting one person out there, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I was like, and then you want me to be more competitive. I can't.
I know. That's you to go lower.
Right.
You're like, I'm at a 1.6. Like,
yeah. That's funny. I like that. It's interesting. This is a good conversation already. I like how we're starting off because I just left WeBank conference last week, and everyone was pushing getting certifications. And I said, certifications are great. I said, but when you're talking to, for example, like say, I don't know, Cummins Power, right, that makes the engines, or even Amazon for that matter, I'm like, okay, yes, as small businesses, as like, because this is a women's conference, yes, we get to play in the 5%, but what about the other 95% pool, right? Like, if we're not certified, so we can't play in the 5%, but we can play over here with the other 95% of your work. That's totally fine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why small business don't receive that.
I've met small businesses that have had, that have spent, taking out loans and spent money and years getting, compiling all these certifications.
Yes.
My ISO, ITIL, PMBOK, all these things. And, and then you look at what past performance they have, and it's very little, and so having a quality management certification is good when you're mature enough to bid after stuff that requires a quality management certification to bid on. But right out of the box, I think it's just it tends to be sort of a red herring. You just don't need it. I mean, what you need to do is document what your core experience is as a person, because that's what you're going to be leaning on as a small business when you first start, and figure out how to tease that into something that is your company's experience, and then figure out how that's going to solve, a problem for the government, and then figure out who has that problem in the government, so you know who you're selling to. So it's not a hard process, but for some reason, a lot of small businesses like to skip some steps, and sometimes I think it's to their own detriment. And then new entrants in the markets that have been commercially successful, they just tend to be not patient enough, because their sales cycle is much faster. They get yes or no's much faster. And so for government, I always tell people it's a marathon, and when you get into protest stuff, then it becomes an ultra marathon, and so so I mean, you just have to be patient, and you have to be still working and still moving your company forward even while you're waiting on wins, which is sometimes kind of the hard trick, right? Because it's kind of like, how far do I go out knowing that this particular win may completely change up the makeup of the company, and so that's always something that we're sort of struggling with, is how much process is the right amount of process for where we are and what we're doing. And then how do we ensure that we can scale that process if X, Y, and Z happens, either up or down? We've had to do both. I mean, you don't grow every year, right? And so it's easy when all you've had is growth for a number of years because you started at zero, to think that like, oh, I'm just going to continue growing forever. But at a certain point, you're not the unknown, that people aren't watching anymore. You're sort of known within your vertical, and people are watching you, and there's enough of your bids out, that people can see what you've bid and you've won, and they can, reverse engineer your rates. And so, you have to start kind of ghosting yourself, essentially, to see if you're going to be competitive against new entrants into your vertical, and so I think, and that's why it's important, I think, to keep trying to move up market, staying true to your core, but moving up market to where you're solving more complex problems for the government than administrative support would be. That way, when you're eventually big enough and priced out of, those NAICS codes, you have someplace to go. If you didn't plan for it, you're just going to be priced out.
No, that's a wonderful answer. Does anyone ever tell you, you said no certs, no subcontractor, you like go straight to Thrive to know your core business?
I know it's contrarian, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely contrarian. By the way, it's exactly what I say, but it's totally contrary to what the masses are taught.
Well, the thing is, like, you really, I mean, and I tell people, like, I love getting subcontractor checks. It's like free money. It's people I don't think about or have to manage. However, there's a lot you give up, and there's a lot of experience that you don't get as an owner operator, as a sub, because especially if you're like, for instance, if you do a subcontract with, let's say your friend, somebody that you know well that wants to see you grow, they'll give you privity to the customer. Maybe they walk you around to different offices. However, that's not the normal. 95% it's like it's no privity. Don't talk to my customer. Yeah, like give me your resumes, and if we like them, we'll take them. And if we don't, you'll have to give us more resumes. You're very sort of shut off, and like I think it's a little shock. It could be shocking for smalls because it's like at first they're all like team this, team, and then once the win happens, it's like you're shut out. Then or actually more like once gold team is sort of or once gold team has sort of happened, you're kind of shut out as a sub. So if you were even allowed in that far, and so I think that I gained a lot of experience like on that NIST contract. I made an appointment with the customer. I went and saw her every month. I had no idea what I was talking to her about, or I just knew that I needed to go see the customer. That's what you're supposed to do. So I would just go and be like, how's it going? Like, how are my people doing? Is there anything they can be doing better? And I just started after the first couple awkward meetings. I started to sort of get a feeling for what she would complain about. And so I was able to head it off ahead of time a lot of times, and it was just the experience that you get from the whole thing, having to put ads up, having to write recs, having to negotiate with people, are they going to be 1099 or W-2? The whole entire, you learn something through the entire process. Having to do an employment agreement or various things. So yeah, I just think that priming small bids at first where you have one or two people and you can bootstrap it, is just the experience that you get is just it's invaluable, I think.
Right. You said that when you started off, you've always had great mentors. I think I don't want to misquote you, but you had great mentors. Or I know you surround yourself with a board and things like that now, but when you first started, you had people that were helping.
I just said I had great advisors. There were
advisors,
people
is the word to use. Advisors.
Mentors. And around, I guess maybe around 2015, I formed an official advisory board. That meets quarterly. And we present our financials, any major events that have happened, sort of what our strategy is moving forward. What are some major events in our pipeline? What do they look like? I tend to get really good feedback from my advisory board. And like, for instance, I had to let a team go that wasn't, performing that well. And so I did a deconstruction, kind of going like, okay, how did I get to this point? And, I sent it out to them and they all gave me different feedback, but it was all valuable. It was just from their perspective, each person had something different to say. And so that was a really good exercise. And somebody on my advisory board was the one that had encouraged me to do it. He was like, you should start from, having to let these people go and work backwards, and then, see what you can learn from the process working backwards, like what, maybe where it went wrong, or, what things you would do differently in the future. So I started backwards, but I started with the good, the bad, and the ugly. And, there was a lot of good that came out of that team, in terms of the content they produced, getting, a lot of things in order in terms of, Salesforce being connected to Govwin, being connected to SharePoint, and the information flow and documentation and all that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of good that came out of it, and then there was some stuff that wasn't great, that came out of that. And so learning and being able to articulate sort of the good, the bad, and the ugly, whether it be about employees or a contract or, whatever. I think is a good exercise for executives and for founders and owners. It's always good to reflect back and think about, what we could have done better, what we could have, just how we could have done it better, or
Right.
if there was something that we could have done to make it more successful.
Were you always that way?
No, man, I came out of the Marine Corps a screaming, Marine Corps guy, and was readily willing to tell people to F off at a moment's notice. And my old business partner was like, one day he's from my line and he was like, "Hey, like, are you in business to make money?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, then you gotta stop telling people to F off all the time. Like, that's not a great way to be." And so that was kind of the start of it. And I think probably age has helped a little bit too. As I've gotten a little older, I've just calmed down a little bit. And I've, and I also realized, and I tell people, because, I talked to a group of people at Belvoir that are waiting on their med boards, and they're interested in entrepreneurship. I've talked to them a few times, and there's always like a sergeant major in there that's like, "You telling me like some civilians gonna tell me he has a sniffles and he's not coming to work?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, Sergeant Major." And I was like, "You know what you'll say? Like, I hope you feel better. I'll see you tomorrow,
Right.
or see you when you feel better." Like, that's insane, I mean?
Right. That's what you can say. Yeah. Right.
I mean, especially if they have, they have sick leave, they have PTO, whatever.
Right.
So, So it's taken me a while to get here. In terms of, I think you're always evolving as a leader. You can't grow a company without growing yourself.
Right.
You just can't. If you're
Right.
not growing, then your company's not going to grow. So I felt like, self-care and sort of self-discipline of ensuring that you're not just sitting behind the desk and doing CEO things or whatever, but
Right.
you're out actually having experiences, meeting with, meeting your team. I've always been a big proponent of kickoffs in person. So even if it's a 5-person, something in Georgia or whatever, I'll go, I'll still go to the kickoff meeting live. During COVID, it was a little harder, but I would still try to go. And, if people were willing to meet, I would still go meet them. So yeah, I think as a leader, we should be always evolving.
Right. No, that's good. That's good. I like that. Tell me one of the things that when you first started in business was hard and that's still hard today.
I think, it's funny. I talked to a lot of different business owners via boards or panels or whatever. And a lot of times, we can not be even in the same industry or the same vertical, and the problems still translate.
Right.
I think once you get over 50 or 100 employees, you're going to spend a good amount of time dealing with people issues. You have a small village. Those people have problems, and I always felt responsible for the people that were employed by IGH. And so my answer has always been yes, if it's something that we could do for an employee that was in need. So yeah, something that was hard that's still hard. I think the market has just changed a little bit, and as we've grown, the challenges change a little bit. But I've always,
What about finance?
That's part.
What about financing the persons when how was that financing 2 people, 5 people? Because I'm sure, again, when you're advising or taking on these panels, small business says, well, when I start, how do I get the money? Right. You said bootstrap the first 2, but then when you go to 5 or 10,
right.
Now what do you do?
So hopefully, this is a common refrain that's true, and I tell people is go get the money when you don't need it. Go get the money when your books look the greatest. And money's about to get a lot more expensive, as we saw. So I started out factoring, then went to a traditional line.
Okay.
Then blew up my covenants, making a tax payment, so I had to go back to factoring. And so it's success isn't a straight road, and even when you're doing 8 or 10 million or a year, there's still issues.
Right.
There always is, but it's the finance stuff gets more complicated. And so that's why it's important to have a good CFO, or a good controller, whatever it is that, based on your size, you feel like you need, because it's when you're doing like, so we went from like doing 400,000 a year to like 1.2 million a month in 2015. And so it was like, all of a sudden it went from something that I could manage in my head or on a very small spreadsheet, to something that, okay, like now we're managing 401ks. Now we have, we're over 100 people. So we have to meet, the, DOL standard for this and the Obama
right.
that. And, now we have to be, our financials have to be audited, instead of reviewed. There's just there's things as you get bigger, there are more requirements of you that are
Compliance. Compliance type thing.
It's compliance, and I'm not
right.
a person,
Let's say compliance.
That's right.
That's a good.
There's a lot more governance and compliance stuff on you. Especially if you have, some small business designations, they'll randomly, ask for your taxes like in the middle of a year,
Sure.
And you're like I put that like in the portal, 2 years ago, like, here's a screenshot of it. And they're like, well, I can't find it, resend it, so
right.
Okay, let me find this, blah, blah. But, so, I guess that's still kind of like what was hard then and what was hard now. I don't see any of it as really hard, just sort of as challenges to be overcome.
I like that. On one of your other podcasts I listened to, it said that you always carry a book around.
Oh yeah, books. Yeah. I'm sort of an avid book buyer. And then I read in spurts. So like sometimes I'll read 4 or 5 books at a time, over the course of a couple of months, or for things that are like 900 pages, like Ray Dalio's book, or what was the book about John D. Rockefeller? I forget that book, but I was like maybe 1,100 pages. I'll do that on Audible.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna
long international flights. I'm not carrying around 900 pages. But yeah, I love buying books. I love buying old books. I have an original copies of How the West Was Won by Teddy Roosevelt. Those are really cool. They're printed in 1901, so they're like 120 years old now. So
wow.
Yeah. So but the thing is that there's some books that I have that are staples that I can always go back to if I'm just if I'm pontificating and over an answer, or if I'm thinking about something, trying to make a decision. I think that sort of the original and best was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And if you've never read it, the title is misleading, in this day and age, is vernacular, because it seems like it seems like it's how do you get over on people, but it's really not. It's more just, and I'm sure you've read it, how to just be a great listener, and I think an overall good person, and so and then there's other ones too that you could just sort of open any part of it and get something out of it, whether that's the Bible or I don't know, like looking over my bookcase right now. It takes what it takes. Is a really good book by Trevor Mowat, I believe, and then
Takes what it takes.
It takes what it takes. That's it, and it's kind of funny because my dad and I always say, well, it is what it is. And so it's kind of along that line. It's the book's more about neutral thinking as opposed to positive thinking, which kind of creates an expectation, as opposed to just like taking things for what they are.
Something like
so
stoicism,
a
kind of
little
like a
bit,
stoic.
yeah,
Yeah,
it is a little bit of that.
right.
I think.
Yeah, the outcome is
Uh,
the outcome. You know.
yeah, and the other principle that I've really tried to be internalize is Annie Duke wrote a book about winning the World Series of poker, and she talks about the decision being removed from the outcome sometimes, because you can make a good decision and still have not a good outcome just because of a series of unfortunate events like Lemony
Right.
Snicket or whatever. But that doesn't mean that your decision was wrong. And so being able to take those two things apart as a leader and go, okay, well, I made the right decision, it just didn't turn out right, so I'm going to run that play again, and and see if it, maybe instead of to the left, we'll run the play to the right this time, and see if it works out better. So I think that's a critical part of sort of the self reflection, self discipline of reading and getting better, and doing things that are good for your mind, body, and soul, and
Hmm.
just yeah, I mean, I'm just a big proponent of sort of just being out and having experiences that make you better as a person that you can bring back and help move your business forward.
Yeah. No, that's great. Did were you encouraged to sit on boards, or did that just come about through people asking you to participate? Like, did someone say,
So
"Hey, Michael, it's a good idea if you might sit on some boards. Maybe you'll get some more deals. Maybe you'll make some relationships."
you
Or,
know
hey, it's volunteerism, and you know.
no, it was kind of a mix. Some of my advisors sit on boards, and they said you should try to you should try to get on some boards. Not for any deals necessarily, but typically the people that are on advisory boards or or board of advisors are at the top of their field. And a lot of times, when I'm sitting in board meetings, I'm not doing anything but listening to these, two amazing questions that are getting asked by people that are way smarter and further down the line than I am. Like the George Mason board, for instance, it's like, I mean, there's people on those boards from large businesses, from all different parts of the market, and so it's really for me, it's a great learning experience. And then also, I sort of get to be the guy that goes, hey, we don't, there's no small businesses on that panel, and so then that's how I end up on panels usually. It's just my point. I'm like, hey, maybe you guys want to throw a small business guy up there, and like, oh, you want to do it? I'm like, yeah, sure. So that, I mean, it's kind of the same with boards. I'm on the board at VIP, which is Veterans in Procurement. It's a part of the Montgomery Chamber of Commerce. And I graduated from that program in 2013, and then in 15 is when we sort of blew up from 5 to like 150 in terms of FTE. And so I just went back and asked if there was anything that I could do to help, in terms of sharing my experience. And they started asking me to do panels, and then eventually Barbara asked me to be on the board there. And then I was just happened to looking at the board at the Center for Government Contracting at GMU, and a lady that I'm on the board with there, I'm on the board with VIP. So I just took her to lunch and asked her about that board and, what it was like and if it would, be valuable. And so she introduced me to Jerry McGuinn, who runs the center. And, I just share with him my experience as a small business owner, kind of where I was and, what value I thought I brought. And he invited me to be on that one. So, and then the other ones that I'm on are nonprofit ones. So, yeah. So I mean, it's just a great learning experience, And if you can add value to anything, you should do it, even if there's just one person listening.
Yeah, no, I agree. And by the way, we do appreciate you coming on today. And that's one of the things that we kind of, you and I touched on in the beginning before we even got started. So we do thank you for that. Eh, And I'm sure that the veterans appreciate all the things that you're giving back to them. So that's wonderful. Recently we had, we provide training to all small businesses, right? Through our for-profit arm. Govcon Giants itself is a nonprofit, but we do provide training beyond the content that we provide online. And so recently, USAA through Goodwill partnership was able to extend to us 41 scholarships for veterans.
Oh, nice.
So it was amazing, and they
Yeah,
were
that's
really
really cool.
happy.
Yeah,
And so we received this like really nice letter from Goodwill Industries, and I mean, it was an incredible experience. So
that's
uh,
great. Who are the veterans? Like, what are the scholarships for? Is it for them to go
so
get
the scholarships are for taking our training. We actually offer training for small businesses that are first getting started and growing their business, and we have courses that range from proposal writing to capture management, pricing, all the things that you need to learn, right? And when you're starting out, you may, like you said, you come from the commercial world. Well, how do you justify your pricing in the government world, right? And so those are
Yeah.
things that there is no schooling for that. Think about it. Like, where did you learn? Where did you learn all this stuff from?
Yeah, I mean, VIP is a great course in terms of, it's 27 hours for veterans, and it covers a lot of things. But more importantly is sort of the network that you get out of that. And like,
Right.
And same thing for my HBS class. It's a cohort of 150 people that do business around the world. So, I mean, there's not a country that I can go to and not call somebody from that class, and they'll be like, oh yeah, we'll come pick you up immediately, So I think, the training that you're providing is needed. And, I always share with people, if they're veterans, like, hey, try to go to this thing or try to go to that thing, because you need to learn the industry, not
Right.
just. I think people come into the industry with the idea that, oh, okay, I'm going to win a 5-year, $20 million contract, sort of,
Right.
and it's not really like that. It's more like, you win like, something that's like 50K a year for 5 years, and it's 250,
That's right. That's right.
and then maybe you win 500 or a million, and so anything that someone can do in order to make themselves more proficient and professional is critical. So,
well, I mean, let's talk through it. I mean, you said to me that you have capture management, right? Like, where did you learn how to build a capture management team? Where'd you learn how to build, where'd you learn how to build that from? All right.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is I'm still learning that,
Right.
I mean,
Exactly. Right.
I mean, like, I won $108 million in awards, right?
Okay.
And there's still a lot of the government contracting market that I'm learning. Like I'm still not great at getting large businesses. I'm not good at getting us as a subcontractor onto large business teams,
Okay.
and then getting work out of that.
Right.
Like that, IDIQs was not something that I focused on heavily, So, I think no matter where you are, you should always be working to get better in the areas that you're weak, and so, anything that you can provide to people, I think, to veterans especially, is a bonus for them. So kudos.
Thank you. No, thank you. And I've had someone on from Defense Acquisition University before, DAU, and I said, why are you guys not extending this to to business owners? And they said that it is possible, but that they don't have enough room to handle the actual government community, more or less extend it over to the small business community at large, right?
Finding people that are certified right now that do acquisitions is damn near. I mean, even like during COVID, we were offering people 80, and they were like, "Well, I'm making 55 sitting at home, so I'm good." I'm like, "You won't go to work for $2,000 a month, $2,500 a month?"
Right.
I would go do that.
I would go, right, exactly. Like I would go.
Right. Yeah, but so yeah, I mean, I think everybody's suffering from from labor shortage right now,
right?
Whether that be COVID related or inflation related, or just being a tight labor market, and having a changing perspective on what the workforce wants, in terms of autonomy, or government contractors don't really have the benefit of commercial companies of trying to get into politics or make political statements or
Right.
whatever, because it's like
No.
like these guys are going to be like the government, our counterparts on the other side of the government are going to be there for years and years and years. So I always just say I'm part of the Green Party. I just want to make money.
That's the best answer. I think we all say the same thing, right?
Yeah,
Like we all
yeah,
say, no, you can't, because the political parties change, right?
that's right, that's
I
right.
mean, if you are picking sides, you're out.
Yeah,
You're out.
yeah,
You're out.
yeah, totally agree. So yeah, and it's weird because and when in DC in the early 2000s, it was kind of like people were at each other politically during the day, but at night they were friends. And so
That's interesting. That's and that's actually very comforting to hear, because I think a lot of times, and I try to say this to family, is I said, don't really listen to what they're telling you on TV, because I've been around a lot of people, not a lot, but I've been around high profile persons that were ripped apart and on the media. But in real life, I've met them and we've gone to dinner and I've met their families. And these people were like, they give you the shirt off their back.
Yeah.
But the media ripped them apart, right? For whatever
Yeah.
reason, that they didn't agree with something that he might have said or did. And I just didn't find that to be consistent with the personality that the individual that I met.
Yeah, it's tough. DC is kind of a weird thing, inside the Beltway, and so maintaining your reputation and your ethics and staying in good standing, I think is super important, because it's kind of a small big world, in the Govcon universe at least.
Let me change the subject. A recent purchase that you made off Amazon.
Regis person. I bought an RTD STL dongle.
What is that?
It's going to allow me to listen to CB communications through my computer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like the truck driver CB.
That's right.
My father was a truck driver for a long time. He said those were always good. Those were always good communications.
Yeah, one of the things that I work on for nonprofits is human trafficking, and truck stops are a huge part of that. And so we're going to just do some listening and see if we can't hear some behaviors and do some modeling and find some anomalies that we can't model and then use at other places. So
okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of I've been buying weird stuff off Amazon and places. So
well, and that's why I asked the question, because I get to learn another side of you.
Yeah, yeah.
That would have never came out any other way.
Yeah. I mean, the other wild thing is I've been in like 9 countries since December. So that's been a lot of travel for me in the last six months.
Around the same premise. Helping.
Yeah, okay. Around the same thing. Yeah. So so that's been very interesting, sort of being where that activity was happening.
It's interesting that you say that. I was at a conference in Vegas a month ago, and one of the speakers came up and he was doing something very similar, but he actually went because he looked at the Ukraine.
Yeah.
And he went over there because all of the people that were left behind were being, like, not all of them, but some of the children were being trafficked. And so he was over there rescuing them from being trafficked to other countries.
Yeah, that's where I was in April.
Okay, so you guys might have been together with the same group, because he said, he brought that up, and these are things that you don't think about, like as a regular, I guess, person, right? We never even considered that. We all look at the war efforts and food and the people, but we never thought of the trafficking side of it.
Yeah, so the trafficking side, in my opinion, is being, from what we saw, is being primarily executed by the Russians in order to, we think, disrupt the warfighter on the front line. If all of a sudden you can't find your wife and your kids, you're not going to want to stay on the front lines and fight. You're going to want to go find them. especially if they were supposed to show up somewhere, and you had cell phone coverage, and then all of a sudden, they stopped answering, or a Russian answered, or whatever. So we think it's a multi-pronged disruption campaign based on what we saw on the ground.
Okay.
And so, which is terrible, but a lot of that goes on in that area.
Okay. What's an odd job that you've had?
Oh man, what job haven't I had? When I got out of the Marines, I was like digging ditches and doing like demo of stuff, and selling protein powders.
Protein. Okay, protein powders. Okay.
Yeah, I worked at like a nutrition store. But man, I mean, I've been running this company since 2004, so almost 20 years.
Okay. Right.
Yeah,
But in the beginning, when you started, you were doing other things in between to keep.
Oh yeah. So when I first started, I was actually I was doing photography quite a bit to keep the lights on. I had gathered up a few clients from the political consulting days that like to have photographers at their fundraising events or whatever. And so I was lucky enough to have a couple customers that would pay me to come up to New York and shoot their events, and I would shoot a lot of events like a National Press Club or wherever. When I go back now and look at the people that I've photographed, I'm like, wow, it's weird how their careers have taken a turn.
Some for the better, some for the worse.
Yeah, I mean,
all over.
Not really. I mean, I didn't photograph like Michael Cohen or anybody that's in jail or anything.
Oh, okay, I got you. Okay.
But like, I have a photo from like 10 years ago of like Kellyanne Conway at a National Review event.
Right.
I photographed Geraldo, who's impossible to get a candid of, because every time you take a photo, he just like turns and smiles perfectly.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was. I was like, damn, I cannot get this guy candid. Like, he just knows,
He knows he's on all the time.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, you cannot take a bad picture of that guy. So,
wow.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's really neat.
It's been an interesting years.
No, that's great, and I'm happy we shared that. Why don't we go ahead and close it up for everyone out there, and just leave them with some words that you want to bestow some of your wisdom upon them. How's that?
I think
or some of your school of heart. How about this? Some of your school of heart life, right? Of hard knocks. How's that?
I think as lead, I mean, speaking to other CEOs or founders or leaders of companies, I think it especially in this day and age, based on the last few years, it always is a benefit to ask your people, how they're doing before you ask what they're doing, and be open, and being a good listener is going to be an increasingly valuable skill, I think, as time moves on. I think most people have lost a little bit of that finesse and that sort of soft skill of listening and taking stuff in without feeling the need to like come right back, and so I tell people a lot. I'm just like man, that's a lot to take in. Let me think about it for a little bit. I don't want to give you an answer right now. And I want to think about it from a broader perspective than just what I'm feeling when I hear that. And so and I would just say that kindness and empathy and compassion go a long way. A little bit of it goes a long way around the world right now.
I'm gonna actually take that advice with my own people. I'm gonna ask them how they feel. And you're right. We have someone right now he's been kind of seemed distracted, and we've had some not so great feedback. And I brought it up to another executive, and I said, hey, maybe you think something's going on at home. He's like, nah, that's not it. But we never asked the question, right? He was like, nah, he's all right. And I'm like, well, he's got a wife and 3 kids. Maybe something happened that we just don't know, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it was it was wild calling around during COVID, and we have people that make, good money, and husbands make good money or wives make good money. And they were able to, take a room in their house and set it up as a classroom and buy their kids Chromebooks and,
Right. Right.
headphones and,
Sure.
extra screens
Sure.
and stuff. And then, we had, single moms that had 3 kids and no support, and basically had to work, at night when their kids went to sleep. And so, it was, there was such a vast disparity in how it affected people. And as a leader, it was like, okay, I don't know what people's risk is at home. I don't know if they have a mom at home. I don't know if they have a husband that has a comorbidity, and so while, I may not have agreed with the math or how they did things, like I had to recognize that, my risk profile, our risk profile as a family, with grandparents that were really young and healthy, is going to be different than somebody else's who's not, and so giving that allowance and just understanding it, and finding out how you can help people be successful if they're struggling, I think is a far better way to approach it than kind of like, hey, you're not performing, we're going to put you on a PIP, for performance, sort of before having a conversation, because sometimes it's an easy fix for us, but a hard fix for an employee.
Right.
So I try to find those ones out.
That's good. That's great. I love it. I love it. You just shared something for me today. So that was
Good.
great. Michael, man, hey, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed the conversation. So
me too.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.